Okay, I want to just do kind of a little survey here as we get started here today, just find out how lazy y'all bums are. That be all right? Just want to check, just to see, all right? Just checking. How do you feel about exercise? Here's your choices. How many of you would say you exercise at least 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week? At least that much. All right, all right. Oh, you're good. All right.
Too lazy to raise my hand.
Okay. Okay. And how many would say that there was something you knew you were supposed to do this week? Yeah, okay, all right. How many of you are too lazy to raise your hand? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, like you said. Okay, how about dirty dishes? How many of you have dirty dishes in the sink at the moment? Or how many dirty dishes do you have at the sink at the moment? You say none, it's sparkling clean. It's completely clean. All right, okay, well, that's good, wow. Well, it's full right now, but I washed up 4 days ago. How many would say that? All right, 1 or 2 of you said that. How many of you just say, heck with the plates, we use paper plates and paper cups and plastic forks? Okay, all right. We got you too, all right. Okay, here's another one. What time of day do you get out of bed on your day off? How many of you say you get up at the crack of dawn anyhow? Okay, no use wasting the day, right? That's the way I look at it, you know. All right. How many of you would say, well, you know, you got to sleep in past noon or it ain't worth it? Okay, 1 or 2 are like that. All right. How many of you just say you just don't even see the daylight on your days off? You just, yeah, well, all right. Yeah, maybe. Okay, one more. How about the Christmas note? You know, you get Christmas presents, you know, and you're supposed to write, I guess you're supposed to write a thank you note for your Christmas presents. How many of you handwrite all of your Christmas thank you notes? Anybody do that? Nobody does that. How many of you just type them out and then just mail a single one to everybody? Nobody does that either. I understand. How many of you just haven't even unwrapped your presents yet? Okay, well, all right, wow. We do have a lazy crowd here today. That's good. I fit right in. I'll fit right in here today. That's a good thing. Let me just welcome week number 5 of our brand new series called Relationship Games. It's kind of an interesting thing. We've been talking about a lot of interesting stuff. The fact is, most of our world today believes that, you know, in a very real sense, that God is the one who's playing games with us. You know, we tend to think that we're kind of sort of trying to play God, but yet there's a lot of us that really think, at least in a very deep sense, a really real sense, that God is the one who's playing games with us because, you know, you can do all the right things. You can do what you're supposed to do and not do what you're not supposed to do and all those kind of things, you know, and it still just doesn't turn out right. Most of society in general, I think, believes that, you know, God is the one who's playing the games with us. You know, and really religion is based on that idea, is that on the idea of this God game thing, where you know, if you want to, since God, look at it from this direction, since God is in the religion game, right? And if you want to stay on God's good side, then the best thing to do then for us weekly peons down here on this you know, spot of mud in the middle of this universe is just kind of play along. I mean, God's in a religious game, and if you want to get along with God, you sort of have to play the game, kind of play along, and you know, that's kind of the way it is, because God's the one kind of playing games with us, so we'll just sort of play along just to stay on His good side. You know, maybe you know somebody who's playing the God game. The God game is kind of a serious thing, in my opinion, and really more commonly I would call that, and I think it's probably more commonly known as, and I've already said that word once, religion. It's a God game. Religion is a God game. It's about playing games with God and about how we think that maybe God is playing games with us. But I want you to know this, that one of the major problems with playing the God game is that you can do the best that you can do, right? You can live your life the best way that you know how. You can do all the right things at the right time and not do all the wrong things when you know you're not supposed to. And life still turns out like hell anyway. And that causes us to turn around and say, well, maybe God is the one who's playing games with us. Because here I am living by His rules, and by His rules it looks to me like if I live by His rules, then He ought to bless my life. And so I'm living by all the rules, and life still turns out like hell. So is God the one who's playing games with us? Okay, so the fact is, the determining factor in how you live life here on this earth is totally dependent on who you think God really is. The determining factor in how you live life here on this earth, whether you live a life that is full of victory and joy and lots of enjoyment in your life and freedom, or whether you're living in this world where everything is drudgery and dreary and all those kind of things, is totally dependent on who you think God is. So how many of you ever heard a sermon on lazy Christians? You know what? I bet you have. I would be willing to bet. I like that. That's yeah, he's got it figured out. I'm telling you. That's life, ain't it? That's what I'm going to do this afternoon. Well, that's what I'm thinking about doing this afternoon. You know, I dare say that all of you have probably heard at one time or another a sermon on lazy Christians. It just wasn't called that. It wasn't by that title. It just wasn't labeled that way. The fact is, all of us have this inbred idea, this, I'm going to call it a satanically inspired belief, that every person is required to play the God game if you want to make it into heaven. Every person is required to play the God game if you want to get into heaven. In other words, you must do this and you must do that, and don't do this and do that if you want to keep God happy and keep God blessing your life. The majority of our world, and probably the majority of us, were raised, or at least instinctively, maybe I shouldn't say instinctively, it's kind of an inbred sort of a thing, believe that kind of an idea. And the fact is, religion plays right into that belief. That there's things you got to do, and there's things you're not supposed to do. And as a matter of fact, when we're talking about laziness, or that religious word that's often used for laziness, slothfulness, or sloth, which is often called one of the 7 deadly sins, is it not? You've heard sloth is supposed to be one of the 7 deadly sins. Well, I assume that means that laziness, or what is more commonly known as sloth in the religious world, is one of those things that God considers to be a deal breaker. If it's a deadly sin, then it's got to be one of those things that God considers to be a deal breaker. If you want to be lazy, then God don't want to have nothing to do with you, right? That's sloth. And that's how that whole idea works out. Sounds pretty ominous, don't it? I mean, it is kind of ominous, ain't it? So here's what Dorothy Sayers says about the word slothfulness. Here's her definition. Listen, it's really crazy. I mean, she covers it all, I think. She says, sloth is that which believes in nothing, cares for nothing, seeks to know nothing, interferes with nothing, enjoys nothing, loves nothing, hates nothing, finds purpose in nothing, lives for nothing, and remains alive only because there is nothing it would die for. No fair pointing at your neighbor. Wow, that would be a really, really terrible way to live, wouldn't it? I mean, just, that's full of nothing, just don't care about nothing. Okay, so let's just kind of play along for a while. Let's play along for a little bit and see how this works out. If slothfulness is supposedly what keeps me from doing what I really want to do, or what I really know I should be doing, then what do you suppose my problem is? If I'm slothful, if I'm lazy, what's my problem? What is it that I need the most? A kick in the pants? Maybe. Okay. I would say probably most of us, if we thought about it for a few minutes, we would say, you need some motivation, dude. You need to be motivated, you know. If you're not motivated, then you're just going to be lazy. You're just going to do nothing, right? That's motivation. It's also a lot of exercise. I mean, kind of trying to keep ahead of that sucker. Woo! I don't know. Man. Well, okay, if it's motivation, let's assume that motivation is what we need. That motivation, in a sense, is the opposite of laziness. If you're lazy, you don't want to do nothing. If you're motivated, you want to do something. Then what exactly is motivation? And for that matter, where do I get some, right? Where can I get some motivation? I mean, especially when it comes to, playing the God game, because that's a tough game to play. It wears you out. It just keeps you wore out all the time, keeps you busy all the time thinking what you're supposed to be doing and not supposed to be doing, all those kind of things. Then if that's the idea, if that's the case, if we need motivation, especially when it comes to playing the God game, then where can I find the motivation I need to keep being good for God? Or like maybe you've often heard it said this way, especially in the religious world. Keep on keeping on, brother. Right? Keep on keeping on. That wears me out just to hear it. Makes me go, man, I mean, wow, I'm already wore out. And that's the idea. You're already wore out. Well, just keep on keeping on, brother. It's good. You'll get there. It'll be all right. Everything will be okay. Okay, so as far as the definition is concerned about motivation, here are some ideas that others have offered about what their ideas of what motivation is. Motivation is having the desire and willingness to do something. All right. It's the internal state or condition that activates behavior and gives it direction. Okay. Motivation is the desire or the want that energizes and directs goal-oriented behavior. Okay. Or the influence of needs and desires on the intensity and direction of behavior. I guess all of those would kind of be definitions for motivation in one way or another. So in other words, I would take that to mean that that's sort of the opposite of slothfulness or laziness. However, the real question is, in this whole scenario, this whole idea is, what is it that motivates me to want to be near God? What do you think would motivate you? What do you think would motivate you to run toward God instead of running away from God in fear? What is it you think would motivate you to do that? I mean, wouldn't it be nice if they just made this motivation pill, especially when it comes to playing the God game? They just give you this pill and you're instantly motivated to go do and be what you're supposed to do and be. What you think you're supposed to do and be. 20 minutes after swallowing it, you're on, buddy. You're game on, Of course, then it wears out and you got to take another one, I guess, and then you get used to it. You got to take 2 a day, and I don't know. Yeah, it's a never-ending thing. Well, on the other side of that, I hate to tell you this, but all of you, every single last one of us, already has motivation. And you say, well, no, I don't. No. When I think about going home this afternoon, I want to sit on the couch and drink beer and watch TV. Okay. So what is it that motivates you to sit on the couch and drink beer and watch TV all afternoon? It's the same issue, right? It's football, all right? You still got motivation there to do whatever it is that you're doing. Even if it's doing nothing, you're motivated to do nothing by something. What is that? Where does that motivation come from? What motivates you to do that? So it's still you still have motivation. Doesn't matter. You still have motivation. So the fact is, every one of us is motivated to do what we do for a reason. There's a reason there somewhere, including those times that we might consider ourselves to be just simply lazy. I just don't want to do nothing. I like the definition about motivation I read a few minutes ago. It's the influence of needs and desires on the intensity and direction of behavior. Okay? So if you're motivated to do nothing, well, your motivation is maybe you're just flat tired. Maybe you just wore out. Your brain is, frazzled, or I don't know. That's motivation. So it really doesn't matter how lazy I might be, or how little I'm willing to do, or how much I like to sit on the couch and do nothing, all those kind of things. It's still the influence of my needs and desires that determines the intensity and direction of my behavior. That means that my internal desire to do nothing, that means that when I have this desire to do absolutely nothing, to just maybe just simply, that's what motivates me to sit on the couch and watch TV, or to lay in the bed and sleep all day. That's my motivation. Okay, so what's really important here, and this is where we're coming to, and this is really what I want to talk to you about today, is the fact that it's important for us here that as we look at this particular subject, to look at what the Bible has to say about this particular idea of laziness or motivation or whatever, and see if we can come to an understanding of how this works out in our lives. So where does motivation come from? Well, the fact is, all of us do or don't do what we do or don't do because of what we've decided to believe in. That sounds really simple, but it's still true. You either do what you do or don't do what you don't do because of what you believe in, what you've chosen to believe. So the first thing I want you to know today, and you might want to write this down, is that what I believe in determines my motivation. What I believe in determines my motivation. What I believe in determines why I do what I do. The fact is, all of us believe in someone or something, don't we? All of us do. Even if that belief is simply in yourself. You still believe in someone or something. You have that belief, and you might believe in yourself. As erroneous as that belief might be, or as wrong as that belief might be, you still have that belief system, and that's what motivates you to do what you do. And the fact is, whatever it is that I really believe in, that's what is the motivating factor in my life to cause me to do whatever it is that I do. So that means that the question we really need to be asking is, what do I believe in? Now we're coming down to really what it's all about. What do I believe in? What is it I really believe in? In simple terms, on a very secular level, that means that, hey, if you believe in providing for your family, then I already know that you're motivated to get up and go to work in the morning and bring home a paycheck. I already know that because of what you believe in. If you believe in maintaining a good reputation, if that's what you believe in, is that a good reputation is something you want to maintain, then I can already know that that's the reason why you're careful to conduct yourself carefully in at least in the public setting. When you're out in public, you want to be careful on how you present yourself and how you dress and those kind of things. If you believe that your personal appearance is important for one reason or another, if that's what you believe is important, then you probably spend some time in front of the mirror primping and all that kind of stuff, making sure that every hair is in place. I checked it carefully. I think every one of them is right where they're supposed to be this morning. I got out my comb, and I combed my hair. It's got all the teeth I need right there. That's all the teeth I need. So you need that many teeth too, don't you? I can see that. Yeah, it's all right. I'm with you, brother. That's where it is. So are those bad things? Is it a bad thing then to be motivated by something like that? To take care of your appearance, to be a conscientious worker when you go to work, to take care of your needs of your family, to take care of your own self, whatever. Are those bad things? Well, in and of themselves, no, of course they're not. We all need to be motivated to do those kind of things in one way or another, for one reason or another. But the problem is that if any of those things, or a Brazilian other things, were to ever become the focus of your life, say that you simply believe in yourself and nothing and no one else, if that were to become the focus of your life, then we got a problem. Then we got a problem. And then I've got a question for you. Because if that becomes the focus of your life, if that is what motivates you to do anything and everything you do, if that is where your belief system is based, if you believe simply in one or any or all of those things, and that's really what motivates your life from day to day, then, if you believe in your family, well, what happens then if you get a divorce and she gets full custody of your kids? Then who will you be? If your job, the job that you do, whatever that might be, even as a pastor, if that's what your identity is, if that's what your motivation, if that's who you think you are, and you lose your job, then who are you? Right? Then you lose yourself. If you believe in your good looks, maybe you're one of those people that have just really knockout good looks, whether you're a girl or a guy, a man or a woman, and you come back from overseas, from Iraq, and your face has been burned beyond recognition. Do you lose your will to live? Do you lose who you are? Do you cease to be who you are? Well, I hope not. I mean, if that's where your belief system is based, then yes, you will lose your identity and maybe even your will to live. So what I believe in, it is the determining factor in why I do what I do. So what we need to know about being motivated by things that are in this world, and that's all we've talked about so far here today, is being motivated by things that are in this world. What you got to know about those kind of things is that those things are very fickle and very short-lived, are they not? I mean, they change constantly. If you're basing your belief system on what you look like, hey, there's always somebody out there that looks better than you, or even will tell you directly that you're just ugly. I'm sorry, but somebody's got to say it to you, right? That's tough, ain't it? Yeah, I mean, wow. The world is very fickle. And then of course the bottom line is that if our motivation is centered in the things of this world, then the fact is our motivation is always self-centered. It's always, if we find our motivation in things in this world, I guarantee you may not agree with that at this moment, but you think that through. It is always self-centered. In other words, my motivation will always be centered around me and how it affects me and no one else. Doesn't matter who else is affected. I don't care. This is what motivates me, and you're not going to mess with that, right? So if I have to step on you, that's your problem, buddy. That's very self-centeredness, isn't it? So listen to what Solomon has to say about what motivates people of this world. He said, I saw that all the labor and all achievement springs from man's envy of his neighbor. Wow, that's a telling thing right there, ain't it? That's not much fun. That all labor and all achievement springs from envy of our neighbor. In other words, we want to be as good or better than our neighbor. That's self-centeredness. That's self-centeredness. You work your whole life to get more toys than your neighbor does, and the next thing you know, he's sold to another neighbor, and they have more toys than that neighbor did. So you're starting over again, right? I mean, you can never win. It just never happens. There's always somebody richer around the corner. Well, James echoes this same belief, the same idea, the same thought when he said in James chapter 4 and verses 1 and 2, he said, why do you fight with each other? What's the reason? Why do you fight with each other all the time? Isn't it because you are full of selfish desires that fight to control your body? You want something you don't have, and you will do anything you can do to get it. You will even kill to get what you want. That is pure, unadulterated self-centeredness, is it not? And that's what happens when we find our identity and our motivation in the things of this world. It is always centered in self. It's always a self-centered thing. I want what I want, no matter who I have to step on to get it. In other words, my identity my self-worth is dependent upon what others say is of value. If others think that something is important and I should be doing that, well then, I've got to do that in order to keep up face, What others think I should do or not do or not do, all those kind of things. Well, is that really all that bad in that sense of the word? I mean, isn't it kind of nice to have others complimenting you about, how good you look and, what a good job you did and how hard you work and how religious you are? Well, sure, it's nice to have those kind of things, but if that becomes the motivating factor in your life, then you need to stop and think about what's really controlling your life at that point. Is it their idea of who you are that motivates your life, or is it something else? I mean, if that's where it's at, then we've got a problem. Now, let's look at it from a religious standpoint for just a minute, because from a religious standpoint, that means that whatever your denomination, your church, or maybe the pastor that you look up to or respect highly, whatever it is that he says is the right thing to do and the right way to believe and the right way to act and look and talk. And really this happens in denominations more than anywhere else, is that the denomination or the religion or whatever it is, they tell you this is what you should believe and this is what you should do, right? So if you want to stay on the good side, if you want to stay, well, and I've faced this in my own life. I used to be a denominational pastor. I won't tell you which denomination I was with because that's not important, doesn't matter. But when I worked for a denomination for many, many, many years, and you step outside of their prescribed set of rules and regulations and do's and don't do's, you step outside of that, you are in trouble. You step out far enough outside that, you will lose your job. Been there. Done that. I'd do it again. Wasn't fun, but I'd do it again. Because I will not be motivated or be told by others what I'm supposed to believe. And I'm not going to tell you what to believe either. That's your business. That's between you and God. We're going to talk a little bit more about that next week, so I'm going to leave that where it's at. But the fact is that if that's what we believe in, is a particular religion or a particular denomination or even a particular pastor for that matter, and everything that they or he or whoever it is that says this is the right thing to do, this is the right way to believe, then our identity is tied up in that denomination or that person and what they believe and what they say is right and wrong instead of what God says is right and wrong, right? Now, which would you prefer? To have some stupid human being or some human institution telling you what's right and wrong? Or would you rather have the God of this universe telling you this is how things are between you and me? I think I'd rather have him saying that. I think I'd rather have him saying that. So here's the question I want you to ask yourself today. Where does my motivation come from? What is it that motivates me to be a better person? Why do I do what I do or don't do? Is it because of what someone else said? Or is it because of what God says? And I'm hoping that and I think probably most of you have probably already found that being motivated by what others think of you, or even by what religion, the religion you belong to or ascribe to or were raised in or whatever tells you is the right thing or the thing you're supposed to be or to do, is all of those things are extremely fickle and a very self-defeating way to live, because you can never live up to the standard. Never. You can never live up to the standard. There's always something you didn't know. No matter how good you think you might be at this point, there's something you haven't been told yet, and you haven't made it. You just think you're there. Boy, what a self-defeated way to live. Man. However, and here's the good news, that when you understand that Jesus loves you simply for who you are, and by that I mean that He loves you not for who you were 10 years ago or who He's hoping you will be 15 years from now, or even for who you think you might be at this moment. But God loves you, Jesus loves you simply for who you are right now. Doesn't matter where you've been. Doesn't matter how messed up your life has been. Doesn't matter how messed up your life might be from here on out. That does not change God's opinion of you. God created you to be you, and He loves you for who you are. And the fact is that when we can understand that God loves us no matter what, and I'm going to tell you again, I say this often, I'm going to tell you again, because this is what God, I think this is what God tells us. The best thing that you can say to your children is the very thing that I think God says to us. Is there is nothing you can do to make me stop loving you. That's what God's telling you right now. There is nothing you can do to make me stop loving you. I'm going to love you anyway. I don't care where you go, what you do, what you get into, how bad your life is, how much you deny me, how much you, swear up and down that you would never want to have another thing to do with me or not. Anyway, I'm going to love you anyhow because you are my creation, my child. And when we can understand that, it's the same thing as our teenagers always do. Is there comes a point in their life when you give them more and more latitude in their life, right? You give them more ability to make their own decisions and to go their own way and to do their own thing, knowing that they're going to fail. And they turn around often and see that as, well, you don't love me anymore because you won't tell me what to do. Well, that is love, isn't it? Because you need to be adults. And the fact is that even when they do mess up, right? They go from here and they do mess up and their lives become a wreck and they do all these kind of things, and you go find them or they come and find you and you pick them up and you dust them off and you say, you know what, baby? It's okay. It's all right. Set them back up on their two hind legs and say, we can do this together. And that's what God says to you. Is no matter where you've been or what you've done or what your life is right now or even what you might be years from now, He still says, it's okay. Let me pick you up, set you back on your two hind legs, and let's do this together because I still love you. It's okay. There is nothing you can do to make me stop loving you. Is God awesome or what? When that's our motivating factor, when that's our motivation, to know that God loves us no matter what, hey, life's cool, man. You just get up in the morning and you go for it. Because even when you do fall down, He says, it's okay. Get up, let's go. We're all right. We're still okay. God's awesome. Lord bless you all.